What if I told you that everything you've been told about discipline is wrong? And that the reason you keep failing to focus on your goals isn't because you need to push harder or do more, but actually because you need to do less. In this video, I'm going to give you a powerful mindset shift that will completely change how you think about discipline and help you to actually follow through on your goals if you take this seriously. So I want you to stop thinking about discipline as willpower and instead start thinking about discipline as energy management. And so the best way to understand what I actually mean by this is to first understand how energy actually works. So I'm sure you would have seen the yin and yang symbol before, which represents balance between opposing forces, right? It's the idea that the world works in opposites. So for example, we have night and day, we have winter and summer, female and male, cold and hot, passive and active, sleep and wake, emotions and logic. And there's so many more examples, but basically if we were to have one force without the other, then things would fall out of balance. For example, if there was only sun but no rain, well then plants wouldn't be able to grow properly and nature wouldn't be able to sustain itself. Or if we could only think with logic and not feel any emotion, then we wouldn't be able to connect with people or experience things like empathy or love. And so the yin and yang represents balance in the universe and reminds us that everything exists in polarity. And so why is this relevant? Well, the problem we have today is that we live in a culture that's constantly focused on the doing side. And when I say doing, I don't just mean having a busy schedule or going to work or being productive, but doing also looks like constantly keeping busy. For example, you fill up every quiet moment with scrolling on your phone, or you watch Netflix all evening on the couch, or every time you eat something, you're watching YouTube videos or a TV show, or every time you go for a walk, you're listening to a podcast or music. Most people think these things are passive activities because they don't require a lot of energy. But the truth is they're not passive because your brain is still being stimulated and it's processing things, therefore it is active. And so when you're caught up in the cycle of constantly doing, constantly consuming, constantly keeping busy, you end up falling out of balance. And so what does being out of balance look like? Well, it looks like trying to be consistent with things and constantly getting distracted and falling off track. It looks like sitting down to focus and your mind jumping between 10 different things. It looks like constantly needing stimulation, such as checking your phone, opening new tabs, or switching tasks. It looks like not having the energy to follow through on your goals even though you don't feel like you've done that much. This is what happens when you're always in doing mode with no being to balance it out. Your energy is constantly being used but never has the chance to recharge. And so you end up feeling overloaded, burnt out, and unable to focus. And so let's break this down using a simple diagram. But I'm going to guess that you probably have a busy life. You probably have responsibilities that you need to take care of. Maybe you need to go to work at 9 a.m. Maybe you need to pay the bills and sit down and do tax returns. Maybe you need to look after your family. Maybe you need to clean the house, do the cooking, do the washing. And so these orange arrows represent energy coming out of you, right? Because you have to give energy to these things. But then when you're not at work or you're not having to attend your other responsibilities, what do? Well, you continue to keep busy. You open up your phone and spend the whole morning scrolling, or you come home from work and you watch Netflix all evening. Or as you're standing in the queue waiting for your coffee, you open up your phone. Or worse yet, in the evenings, you're going on 2 screens at the same time. You have the TV on and you're also on TikTok scrolling. And so these red arrows show that even when you're not doing your daily responsibilities, you're still keeping busy, and this is still using your energy. And so this is the problem, because we live in a culture that's addicted to staying busy, constantly using energy, but never really restoring it. And so you might be thinking, okay, but what does this have to do with discipline? Discipline is about working hard. Discipline is about focusing. Discipline is about achieving your goals. And so why are you talking about energy? But just think about it. A car can't go anywhere or drive very fast if it doesn't have any fuel. And you are exactly the same. Before you can expect yourself to study for hours or build up that business that you keep saying you're going to start, or focus on learning that skill that could actually get you a job promotion, you first need to make space in your day where your mind isn't constantly being pulled in thousands of directions. And so instead of constantly doing all the time and always keeping busy, what we want to learn how to do is to slow down and focus on being a human being again. And being can look like things such as being in nature, which helps to reduce mental noise and has been proven to slow down your mind naturally. Or getting good quality sleep, which helps you to restore your brain and body and allows you to fully recover. Or something like slow yoga, which relaxes your nervous system and helps you to release any built up tension or stress. Or journaling, which helps create space for your mind to think through things and for you to process emotions. Or going for a walk outside, which helps you to get fresh air, light movement, and it helps you to decompress. Or doing a meditation, which helps you to regulate your stress and gives your mind a break from constant input. Now, of course, you might think, well, aren't I still doing something if I do these activities? And yes, technically you are. But the difference is they create space instead of more input. They shift you into a more passive state where your mind is receiving less stimulation. And because of that, your system is able to slow down and relax and recover. Which is why you now start gaining energy back and you are recharging. And so guess what that means? You now have more energy to actually direct towards your goals and focus properly. And so let me quickly give you a real life example. But let's imagine we have two people, person A and person B. And both of them have the goal to work on a personal project after their day job. So let's imagine person A wakes up and immediately starts scrolling in bed. They rush out the door with their headphones on, put a podcast on, and go straight to their emails at work. The entire day is constant input. Messages, notifications, they're watching YouTube on their break. When they get home, they watch Netflix. Now compare that to person B, who wakes up, makes some breakfast, and sits in silence for 20 minutes. They walk to work without listening to anything, and when they get there, they open up one tab and they focus solely on that job. On their break, they go for a 10-minute walk without their phone, and when they get home, they actually give themselves the space to reflect on the day and think. Now let's imagine they both sit down to work on their personal project. Who do you think's going to be better at focusing? Who has more energy to give, and who is going to produce the better quality work? Well, of course, it's the person who hasn't spent their entire day constantly busy. It's the person who actually gave themselves quiet moments of the day to recharge and reset. And so this is why discipline isn't really about willpower, but it's about energy management. Because discipline isn't just about how hard you can push, but it's about whether you actually have the energy to push in the first place. And so sometimes, in order to go fast, you first have to slow down. Because at the end of the day, it's not always about doing more, but it's about having the energy to do what actually matters. Let me know if you like this style of video, like this presentation guide type style. I definitely want to do more of these, but only if you find them valuable. So I'd love to hear in the comments if you enjoyed this or if you found it of value. I hope this video could have helped, and all the best moving forward.